speaker today is Lindsay Murphy. She's the Account and Business Development Manager at Postal Advocate, the only mail audit and recovery firm in the U.S. and Canada. We manage a portfolio of over 174,000 pieces of mailing and shipping equipment for the largest U.S. companies. Lindsay has over 6 years of account management experience with a proven track record of success in exceeding targets. Her email is listed there for your convenience in case you want to contact her after the presentation today. And Postal Advocate is not affiliated with any mailing vendor, so we can offer you unbiased advice. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thanks, Michaela, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So below is what we're going to be covering, and hopefully we'll be able to shed some light on some issues that you're currently having. We'll be covering equipment savings process, the analysis and visibility, make sure that you're choosing the right vendor and acquisition method, the right solutions for your different locations. We'll go over PC Postage, which is the fastest growing in the postage industry right now. We'll go over eliminating vendor fees and overcharges, any lost postage recovery. We'll go over to the enterprise fleet management, postage savings, and using best-in-class tools and resources. And again, if you have any questions about anything that we cover today, please feel free to reach out to myself or Michaela, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. So there is going to be an upcoming USPS rate change that's going to be going into effect on August 29th. You will have to make sure that your meters are updated. PC Postage will update automatically, but actual physical meters in locations will need to be updated manually. And you'll still receive, if you have postage meters or are using PC Postage, you'll still receive that 5 cents per piece discount over buying stamps from the post office. And down here, you'll see these are the proposed increases that they're looking at. So we do have this handy little budget tool that we have created to help manage this increase. If you would like a copy of this, you can feel free to email Michaela. Again, her email is right here, michaela.miller@postaladvocate.com. She'd be happy to send that over to you. Depending on your vendor, you will be able to find all of the information regarding the rate changes right on their website. These are all of the addresses that you would need to go to. And again, those are going to be going into effect by August 29th. So you do need to do the rate changes on the physical meters prior to that date. So what we do, and all we do, is help people manage their mailing equipment. Our average client savings is 59%, and that's really held up over the last 9 years. So what someone was paying before we got involved compared to what they're paying after on a transaction by transaction basis has averaged 59% less. We manage over 174,000 pieces of mailing equipment for our clients. We have clients in the US and Canada, and we've been able to save them over $67 million collectively in just 9 years. Our average client savings is $1.9 million. And we've recovered over $22 million in lost postage and fees. And I'll go into a little more detail on that as we go through the slides. We have web-based tools that are easy to use and they're simple. We take care of the day-to-day problems that people have in this category. We have over 220 years of industry experience on our team. It's a great team to collaborate with. I enjoy working with them on a daily basis. We're able to manage this category on the largest scale every single day. And so we're just really, really good at it. Whatever issues or setbacks you're dealing with, we've seen it and we've been able to improve it without even needing to switch vendors in most cases. So we do have NDAs with most of our clients. You can look on our website and you'll see we do have some case studies with some of our clients. They've allowed us to use their company name and their savings and data. So you can certainly find that on our website. But you'll see we do work, 3 out of the top 10 insurance companies, 3 out of the top 4 uniform companies, 1 out of the top 2 pharma companies in the country. So it doesn't really matter what industry it is that you're coming from. All that matters for us to be able to provide value to your organization is that you have multiple locations and you're having issues with visibility in this category. So your typical model when working with clients is we ask them to sign a letter of authority. And this gives us the ability to research your mailing equipment. And we're able to perform a no cost, no obligation audit for every account that comes on with us. So the main reason that we do this is because no one truly knows what their spends are. And if you don't know what your spends are, you can't find where your savings opportunities are, right? So we're able to come in, we're able to perform this analysis. All you need to do is give us copies of vendor invoices, copies of location lists, an inventory list if you have one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work in the background. We're going to go back to the vendor websites. We're going to plug in the information that we received from you. We'll pull all of that data together and see how much postage you're actually doing, when leases expire, if they've already expired, and then we'll fill in any gaps in the data. We're going to analyze the spends to look for things like contract compliance, any billing errors, vendor fees and overcharges. We'll look for lost postage. And then where do we have any right sizing opportunities around the equipment, potentially even, terminations. We'll come back and we'll present those findings to you. We'll give you options for moving forward. And then we're going to go ahead and submit all of the vendor credit requests, any lost postage forms. We'll eliminate any avoidable fees. We'll go back to the vendor and negotiate pricing and create a catalog so the pricing for your equipment is uniform across the entire organization. We're going to go ahead and work with locations directly, and we'll make sure that what the vendor is showing they have for equipment is actually what they do have. We'll go ahead and figure out what they're doing for volume. Maybe the equipment that they have is too much and they could downsize to something that's going to save them a little bit of money. Maybe they could terminate altogether. They're really not using the equipment. We'll go ahead and send all of these savings opportunities and get client approval, whether that is from the location directly or from corporate, however you choose to handle that. And then we also provide a web-based dashboard so that you can see all of this going on. You'll be able to access account numbers, any notes that we have with the locations, and we'll go ahead and provide ongoing support all the way through, because most locations, they don't have all of their equipment coming up all at once. No company has every single one of their locations with leases expiring on the exact same day. So we'll go ahead and we'll manage that period for you moving forward and over that period of time. So one of the issues people have today is mailing visibility, right? They just don't know where all of their stuff is throughout the country. It's a smaller, sometimes overlooked category. You don't know where the equipment has gone. Maybe the vendors never really provided reports, or maybe they have, but they have just merged in different directions. Equipment's been moved. You just don't have the visibility in this particular category. And this is where we're really able to save locations 60% because they've never had that full visibility or that good and consistent reporting and those details really before we get involved. Most mailing equipment is leased, and with fairly new IRS regulations on how leases need to be accounted for, you do have to know the details of every single one of your leases and put that remaining lease obligation on your balance sheet. So for example, you need to know that your lease is $5,000 a year, it expires in 2022, you're spending $400 a month, and you owe in total for the remainder of that lease $11,220. You have to have that level of detail for every single one of your agreements, which most companies, they just don't have. So we're able to come in and really provide that visibility and manage this detail for you moving forward. So there are steps that we take to get to the level of visibility that we're able to provide. As I stated previously, all you need to do is forward over some forms to us, and then we'll go ahead and work in the background. We'll match up all data from AP reports to vendor reports. We'll investigate postage volumes, contract expirations, any unused equipment, and locate and fill in any missing information. We're going to go ahead and consolidate all of that information into reports that we can provide and easily export to you at any time. You'll also be able to access those on the web-based dashboard that I did speak about a little bit earlier. And then we're going to go ahead and fully analyze this data and present our recommendations to you and the projected savings. So as I've stated a few times, we do have this handy web-based dashboard tool, and that's where you're going to be able to get all the information. So we'll show information for vendors as a graph and also spends by vendor themselves. We'll show all spends in one place across the organization. It's going to detail all of the lease amounts, all of the meter rentals, what your total expenses are across the board. That'll include meter rentals, leases, maintenance, fees, and then we'll show what you're spending in postage. And then that's going to also give you your spend ratio. So that's going to show you, what you're doing actually in expenses for your actual equipment sitting in your office compared to what you're spending on postage that you're actually using. We're also going to provide this information for each individual location side by side. And the spend ratio over here, which I just talked about a little bit, it's really important because it's able to standardize that equipment cost over postage. So a good spend ratio for a low volume location is going to be below a 0.5. So for example, if you have a location, say they're doing $100 a month on postage, you're going to want that location spending $50 or less for equipment, and that's going to put them at that 0.5 or below. For a higher volume location, say you have a location that is doing $10,000 a month in postage, you're going to want them to be below a 0.1. So they're going to be looking to spend, around $1,000 or less per month on that piece of equipment sitting in the office. Unfortunately, we find companies with locations that have spend ratios of a 10 or even a 20. So in other words, for someone that has a spend ratio of a 20, for every $1 they're spending on postage, they're spending an additional $20 just on the equipment that's sitting in their office. Unfortunately, that happens because they leased equipment, say 3 to 5 years ago, their volumes have gone down, nobody has really looked into this, the vendor hasn't right-sized them, and so we're able to come in and really show clients this detail and break it down for them right on this web-based dashboard. You're also going to be able to access the information for each specific location. So this site, for example, they're spending $522 for their lease amount, their meter rental is $98, and then they're spending $127 on maintenance. So their total expense is $747 per month, but they're only doing $400 in postage. A spend ratio of 1.87, we would want that to be much, much lower. Again, so they're spending $1.87 on the equipment that's just sitting in their office for every $1 that they're spending on postage that they have to use, right? I mean, you have to send things out. So what we're able to do is we're able to show that. We're going to show the leases, the rentals. We're going to give you all of the account numbers. If you need that, you'll be able to access who the contacts are at this location, and then we'll give you a history. So you'll be able to go in and see, who we talked to at this location. Did they respond to notifications that we sent out to them and what their responses were, and come to us with any questions that you might have. This is always available, but you can also request reports from us at any time, and we can easily export those to you, in whatever format you need, whether that's, PDF or Excel. Once we have that data, there's two things that we're going to do. First, we're going to validate spends with locations. So we find that 5 to 15% of equipment is just no longer there. It's sitting in a closet, maybe it's sitting in a storage room, it could have been lost. We had one location that just threw it out. They didn't realize that it was government property, and you cannot throw out these meters. So it does happen. The vendors continue to charge you, and the locations are just unaware that they're still being charged for this equipment. So we're going to go in and we're going to look for key criteria. We're going to look for meters that haven't been filled for over 6 months. Are there any expired leases, or have rentals, lapsed? Are there any maintenance or fees that we need to look into? Is there any equipment that's over 5 years old? And then additional equipment such as, folders, inserters, if there's any openers or shipping and tracking systems. And we're going to go back to the location and we're going to validate, do you actually have this equipment and are you using it? When we do that, we're going to send them a personalized email. This is going to show them, the vendor is showing you have all of this equipment. And then the location can go in, easily say, yeah, we use this one, we use this one. I've never seen this before in my life. We don't use that. Or maybe I saw that it was sitting in a closet. We can go ahead and return that. And we're going to go back to the vendor and work with them. We're going to make sure that any maintenance fees are canceled, leases are terminated, if equipment needs to be returned or picked up, that's done. And we're going to follow this process all the way through and make sure that all of these changes have been implemented. So the account management process is our day-to-day work with the locations. And this is my favorite part of the process. It's where we really are able to work with the locations directly and work with the vendors directly and build those relationships to figure out, what is going to work best for our clients? What are the requirements that these locations have? What do they currently have for equipment? Do they need it? What is it they like about it? And then we can give them our recommendations for moving forward. So the locations will receive an email that I'll go on a little bit more about in the next few slides, but that will give them what our recommendations are. They can ask us questions based off that. And once they make their decision, we'll go ahead and work with the vendors directly. And we'll review all of the new agreements. We'll make sure any cancellations are taken care of. And then we're going to go back and work directly with locations again to make sure that new equipment was up and running and the old equipment was sent back. And we'll go ahead and follow this process again all the way through until it's complete. Afterwards, we're going to still be available to these locations because we still get questions about, there's billing issues, or there's issues with ordering supplies, or maybe they're having issues, getting a hold of a tech support person to help them with a meter. And sometimes we're able to help them manage that process moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and analyze pricing and terms for each location. Companies we've seen, they have sites that are spending $500 a year for one specific meter. And then there's another location and they have that exact same meter, but they're spending $1,500 a year. And it's for the same piece of equipment and it's at the same company, but there's such a huge discrepancy on what is being spent. This happens because they've never had any standardized rates. No one's ever come in and looked at the pricing holistically. So we're going to go ahead and analyze that pricing, and then we're either going to do a bid with multiple vendors, or we're going to push their current vendor for a fixed price point. Once we have that, we're going to go ahead and send out this email, and I will go into more detail on this in the next slide, but this is going to show them what they currently have, what our recommendations are, and what the costs are for each, what the specs are, and we'll work with the location to determine what's the best option for them to move forward with. It's not that companies make bad decisions, it's just that they don't have the data. The vendor reaches out to a location and they're offering to save them, 10%. This is their current equipment. They're going to save them 10% on this. But what they don't realize is that maybe their volumes have drastically decreased. They don't need this equipment anymore, and they could actually save 80% if they just moved to this lower sized meter that's a little bit more in line with their volumes. So this is the renewal email that we do send to each location. It is specific with the information for each individual location. Up here is going to have the corporate contact that can be reached if the location has any questions on who we are. They just want to confirm that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then it's going to give them the directions on what we need from them. It will give the address that we have them listed at. Maybe they've moved, they can update that. It's going to give them what the lease information is, when the end dates are, how much they're doing in postage. And then down here, it's going to give them side-by-side comparisons of their current equipment, how much it costs, who the vendor is, the specs for that particular piece of equipment, and then what our recommendations are for moving forward. They'll be able to see everything side by side. They'll be able to see what the savings will be. And then they'll also have detailed, web, PDF, and video links so that they can make an educated decision on what they want to move forward with. So how do we manage this process? Once the location decides what equipment they're going to go forward with, they're going to get this secondary page that pops up. And they'll be able to confirm, if they had any address changes, they'll be able to do that here. They'll be able to enter in any approver or install contact information. If, depending on how their accounts payable works, they're going to go ahead and enter in any cost center, chargeback number information for billing purposes. And then we're going to go back to the vendor with this information and request the new equipment that will also be in here, or any cancellations. This is also going to detail any next steps, system connectivity, installation and training, and this is all specific, again, to the piece of equipment that they have decided to move forward with. We're going to review paperwork for any new agreements from the vendor, and then we'll send off for signature, whether, again, if that's to corporate or to the location directly, based off of how your company chooses to handle that. Once that's done, we'll send an order confirmation email to each location. Again, this will show them the option that they chose and detail all of the next steps. Again, this is a one-to-one based off the equipment they're getting and or returning. So this is the equipment that's being returned. This is the new equipment that you're going to be receiving. And then these are the steps for moving forward. The new equipment is going to be delivered within 1 to 3 weeks. Here's what you need to know if you need to send this to IT for system connectivity. Here's the installation and training for the new equipment. Postage transfer information. A lot of people don't realize you can't actually directly transfer funds from an old meter to a new meter. It doesn't work that way. These machines are almost like little ATMs. So you do have to refund the money off your current meter and then download new funds, whether that's from a consolidated account or not, onto the new meter. And then it's going to detail any equipment return and operator guide links. Four weeks later, we do follow up with every location. We're going to ask them to let us know, was the new equipment installed and did you send the old equipment back? So the location is going to click on this confirm completion button, which will bring up this secondary page. And from here, we're going to need them to click yes. The new equipment is working. It's great. Yes, the old equipment was sent back. Here's my information if they have any comments that they want to add in here. And that's going to send back to us. And until we get 2 yeses, we're going to continue to follow up because we find that mailing vendors, they don't always do what they're supposed to do. Things can linger. Billing can keep going. So our job is just to make sure that this is completed and finished. And until we get the 2 yeses here, so if we get a yes here but a no here, then we're going to keep following up. Until we get those 2 yeses, we're just not going to mark this as closed. What we also find is that vendors are fee heavy. Companies don't realize that until they provide proof of insurance, which most companies do have to cover their equipment, they're going to get charged insurance fees from the vendor. They're also being charged loyalty program fees, which most companies, they just don't use. So, we've been able to save over $200,000 just in removing insurance, over $75,000 just in removing loyalty program fees, late fees and finance charges. In total, these have come to over $800,000 that we've been able to save our locations. And the thing is that the main fees that we do see, as you can see based off these numbers, are the late fees and finance charges. So a company with 50 different sites, say none of them are billed together, they're all trying to pay these on their own. Maybe they even go through a central accounts payable, but they're just not getting payment back to the vendor on time. Now, you don't just have the equipment costs. You have to keep in mind that you're also borrowing postage as well. Everybody is borrowing postage from the vendors. So there's 2 ways that you can borrow these postage funds. You either prepay, and you just have money sitting almost like a checking account, just waiting to be used. But the way that a lot of companies do choose to do this is by paying at the end of the month, almost like a credit card. Now, this is a really great service. The problem is that if you do not pay the balance in full and on time, you're going to get hit with 18 to 22% interest rates plus late fees. So if you continue to not pay the balance in full, it's just going to be a cycle. You just keep accumulating these late fees and finance charges. And unfortunately, we find clients, they're spending, tens of thousands of dollars just in these fees, and they didn't even know about them. So part of the audit is that we're able to come in and really quantify all of these fees together and then show you what you're spending your money on and try to figure out ways to eliminate all of these fees moving forward. The next thing that we find is overcharges. So, for example, maybe equipment was canceled 6 months ago, but they continued to be billed. Maybe you were supposed to pay X amount on a lease, and the lease is supposed to include the meter as well as, maintenance if there's rate changes, but you find out that you've been charged separately for maintenance and rate changes on all of your different agreements. There's just all of these miscellaneous charges, and we've found over $12 million in these overcharges. So we're going to go and look through bills, we're going to validate that they're correct, and then we're going to go ahead and request refunds wherever you're being charged too much money. The next thing that we find is lost postage. So 30% of all meters have been returned in the last 5 years, and that's just going to continue. So there's two ways, again, to fund meters. You have a master account, which funds all of the meters, or you have individual accounts per site. So if you're on a master account and you return a meter with $1,000 of postage, that's going to go ahead and go back onto the master account. But say you have a meter and your locations are billing individually. So say there's a location in Boston. They're going to be returning their meter. Does that location then know they actually need to fill out a refund request form with the vendor, and then they have to continue to follow up to make sure that that money was actually refunded? What we do is we make sure that money isn't sitting, stagnant just for years waiting to be claimed. In the last 24 months alone, we've recovered almost $6 million, and the largest we've ever found, we had one client. They had $578,000 just sitting in a postage account that they didn't even know about. Unfortunately, we do find that it can happen in any organization, and 9 times out of 10, you don't even know that the money is sitting there. So PC postage, as people are mailing less and less and they're working from home, they need different models than just the traditional postage meters that sit in the office. We're finding that the fastest growing area in the mailing industry right now is PC postage. And what PC postage means is basically from any web browser, you can go ahead and print postage. The reasons people are moving to the PC postage model is that it's inexpensive compared to traditional meters. It's cloud-based, so it can be accessed from any device. It really is incredibly easy to use, and it provides visibility that you just can't get with a traditional meter. Typical costs for PC postage is between $10 to $30 a month, whereas a traditional meter can run anywhere from $25 all the way to $1,000 a month, depending on the size of equipment. I believe right now we currently have between 8,000 and 9,000 clients who have switched to PC postage in the last, 1 to 2 years. There's visibility to all history. Again, you just can't get that in a traditional postage meter. With a traditional meter, you can see when funds were downloaded and how much was downloaded, but you can't see who downloaded it, what they're using those funds on, when they're using it. But with PC postage, you can. Every piece of mail that's run, you'll see who ran it, what cost center it's exporting back to, and all of that is easily accessed right online 24/7. Some of the providers even have options where you can go in and do rate comparisons for UPS and FedEx, which is really great. And there's also a significant savings on actual postage over postage meters and buying stamps from the post office. If you look over here in the savings and what you're going to be getting, if you look at a 5-ounce first class parcel, if you're using PC postage, you're spending anywhere between $3.18 and $3.63. But if you're using a postage meter or buying stamps directly from the post office, you're looking at between $4.39 and $4.81. So that's a 25 to 28% discount just by using the PC postage option, which really does, I believe, make things a lot easier. It's easily accessed and it's easy to use. So the way PC Postage works is it's typically a subscription model, and you're going to pay a monthly cost. Most systems, they come with a scale, and you can print from any device. So especially now with most people really moving to that remote employees and a lot of companies just deciding to keep their employees remote, you can still ship, paperwork or files or whatever it is that you need to get out and still have that full visibility. All you need is a printer and Wi-Fi access, internet access. You can ship packages with 4x6 labels either on any printer paper and just tape that to your package, or you can use a label-ope with the glassine window and you just go ahead and slide that paper through. You can also use an Avery label, and basically what you're going to do is you're just going to peel the label off and it comes to a sheet. But the most common way people are printing stamps is by ordering these stamp sheets from the vendor. And these are really cool because they have a barcode up in the corner. So that's going to connect to your system, whichever PC Postage system you're using. And that's going to tell you, say you wanted to print an entire sheet, you can absolutely do that. But if you wanted to print as you go, weigh pieces specifically, say you're printing off stamps 1 through 7, but that's it. You don't have anything else to ship today. When you go back in, you're going to be able to enter in that code number, and it's automatically going to start printing on stamp number 8. And I think that that is great because unless you are incredibly talented, I think we've all been in the situation where you put something in the printer and it just doesn't print the way that it's supposed to, and you don't want to be wasting, for one, you don't want to be wasting your postage printing somewhere that it's not going to be able to be used. And you also don't want to be wasting these stamp sheets because you do have to pay for them. You can print, again, if you are talented enough, directly onto an envelope. It'll print the stamp right there for you. You also do have an option if you wanted to fill in your return address and sending address information. You can get the thermal label printer, like this one that you see here. They're typically, you can buy those for typically, I believe, $100 to $200 to buy those out. And those will just go ahead and print directly for you as well. So there is a standard PC postage option where each location is kind of managed individually. But the enterprise PC postage option, we recommend that for any location for any company that has, more than 10 locations using PC postage. What this means is there's basically going to be an administrator that's going to manage every single location that you have across the board. It's going to handle any billing issues, any subscriptions, supplies, postage. Whoever the admin is will be able to remove users. So say somebody leaves the company or they're terminated from the company, you don't have to worry about them still having access to your funds. They're going to go ahead and be able to be removed very quickly. They're going to be able to access any reporting straight from the central dashboard for the enterprise PC postage option. So this option really does give very clear visibility for each and every location using your PC postage. We do have multiple clients that are using the enterprise PC postage option, and it really has made everything a lot easier for them in terms of visibility, seeing who's sending, seeing what's being sent, what locations actually need a postage option and which locations maybe could just buy stamps from the post office. They're really not doing a whole lot. And then you have that admin that's able to really manage that for you as well. So our pricing structure, Postal Advocate offers a no-risk savings contingency plans. We offer an essentials plan, which is typically 35% of savings that we can document. We also have clients that want to know, what they're being charged for every month. So we work out a fixed amount that they're going to pay monthly. They're on a budget that they have X amount they can spend per year on this particular category. So we're going to work with them and manage the process across the board based off that monthly fee that they would be paying us. We do, again, an audit for each and every account, and this is no obligation, no cost. We run the audit for you. You feel like, our services aren't needed at that time, or the savings opportunities that we're able to suggest aren't something that you're interested in moving forward with. There's absolutely no obligation. There's no cost. It's going to show what is being spent at sites. Are there fees? Are there overcharges? And what our recommendations would be for right sizing options or potential terminations. Again, this is the letter of authority. This is what we would ask for you to send over to us. This is what gives us the ability to work with the mail vendors and get that information. We're going to ask to provide any invoices, our accounts payable exports, so that we can basically match up the information between what you have and what the vendor has. And that's going to give us a really clear idea of where your savings opportunities are going to be. So just to summarize, what we do is we basically provide visibility in this category that a lot of people do tend to have a hard time getting that visibility in. We're going to look for any savings, recover any lost funds or overpayments. We're going to try to make this category as simple as possible and answer any questions that you have. Again, our entire team is really fun to work with, really good to collaborate with, and we're going to provide that support moving forward. So from the minute that we come on with you and we start working with a location, we'll provide support to them all the way through the process and even afterwards. And again, it is risk-free. You only pay us for what we can document in savings. And I think that has worked out really well for a lot of our clients and what we've been able to provide to them. So I hope that you learned something today. You can feel free to reach out to me again or Michaela if you have any questions at all. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to you, Michaela.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of our upcoming webinar that's going to be happening on August 18th and August 25th. We will be covering the August 2021 USPS rate increase and how it's the largest in history. You can register for that event on our website. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, we are going to have a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card today. We will announce the winner on our various social media platforms, as well as on our website at noon today. Any questions? I want to thank everybody for joining us again. Lindsay's email is there if you would like to reach out to her, and those are our various social media links if you would like to visit those at noon to see who won the gift card. There are two different ways to ask questions. You can either hit the hand button and we'll unmute you to ask a question, or you can just type your question into the chat. Alrighty, it looks like our first question is, what type of companies does Postal Advocate work with?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We generally work with multi-location organizations, anywhere from close to 50 or more locations is what we tend to work with. Fortune 1000 companies, state, local, and federal governments, and everything in between. So really all that matters is that your company has multiple locations and you're really just having trouble with visibility in this category.
All right, it looks like we have another question. We are thinking about switching to PC Postage, but all of our billing goes to a centralized billing office. Is there a way to see which spends are allocated to each location?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the vendors can actually break this out for you in the billing, and we come in and we manage this for our clients. So we make sure that there is an upload in the format that's needed that allocates the subscription, the postage, the supplies back to the appropriate cost centers, based on how your company handles that.
Alrighty, and it looks like our last question, will the meters automatically update with the new rates?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to go back to the postage rate change slide. So PC Postage, it will automatically update, so you don't have to worry about that. But any of the actual physical meters, you are going to have to manually go in and do the rate changes before August 29th. So any of the vendors, these are what they offer. So you will be able to go onto those websites. They are fairly easy to understand the process in doing the rate changes. They also do, every single one of them has tech support that can help you if you're having issues. But yeah, so PC Postage will automatically update. Unfortunately, the actual physical meters, you're going to have to go in and manually do that again before August 29th.
Alrighty. If there are no further, just a second, we got one more question in. How do you view the stamp sale and how PC Postage may change?
So I actually don't really understand the stamp sale part of that question, but I do think that over time, PC Postage is going to evolve. It's really the fastest growing in the industry right now, and it did just kind of come out. So I'm sure that over time, we're going to see more and more updates to even better visibility in this category, even easier ways to access these stamps for mailing and shipping.
Lindsay,
yes,
I can interject on that in terms of the
thank you.
stamp. No problem. I just didn't want to cut you off. Hi, this is Doris. So recently there was an announcement with Stamps.com being a publicly traded company, and they were sold to a private equity firm. We suspect that there isn't really going to be a big change in terms of how they'll operate their business. But we will obviously be working and looking at that very closely. We work well with all vendors, and they don't foresee any changes in terms of the actual platform itself. Obviously, Stamps.com currently, the majority of their clients are either on an enterprise platform, which there would be absolutely no change, but then they also do retail commercial, where they deal with a lot of household people that are just sending out stuff from home. So good question, Frank. And I would say check in on our blog post, because as we hear more information, we'll definitely blog it out.
Alrighty, and that seems to be all the questions that we have for today. So if there are no further questions, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. Please fill out the survey that will appear at the conclusion of the webinar, and be sure to check out our social media pages at noon to see who won the $50 Amazon gift card. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.